Coming in hot, Chinchy. What's up, brother Lamboo? Let's go.
Let's go. I'm fired up. Multiple things. First of all, once again, Lambooski steps in it in a good way because he's getting our Tuesday slot. Why, Sean? Because of something very, very, very cool that you did that I'm going to kind of bring into the edit. What happened today and where is that show going?
We got a special episode of the Mayor's Office coming to you tomorrow. We filmed a bunch today down at the Roberto Clemente Museum with my buddy Dwayne Reeder. It's going to be an unbelievable show. We toured the museum. Clemente's 50th anniversary of his 3,000th hit. So many cool things in this episode. Tune in. We'll have it delivered tomorrow. We got Lambooski today. We flip-flopped it. Let's go.
Let's go.
I can stand in for Roberto Clemente, guys.
Yeah.
Okay,
look, this is how hard we're grinding. If you are watching this on YouTube, Boo looks like looks like Alice from the Brady Bunch in the middle of the squares. But hey, look, we make adjustments, and that's that. Do. So, Case, where are we starting here in Boo?
Well, just like they do in the NFL, people make adjustments to people, right? I'm going to segue right into this right here. What a difference a week makes, right, Boo? I mean, you know, some guys dominate last week, and then all of a sudden they come in this week, and it's like, uh-oh, people make adjustments in the NFL. Talk to us about that a little bit, brother.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You guys are wonderful, by the way. It's great to see you guys. All right.
Good to see you, bro.
Yeah, man. What a difference a week makes. And we talked about last week, it was 60 minutes of football, guys. We don't overreact. Stop your nonsense. Just pay attention to the ebbs and flows of the year and understand there are going to be plenty of them. You know, coaches get coached, get paid to coach in this league. All right. And they're good. And they watch tons of film. And they're obviously out there trying to stop whatever you do well. So, again, we tend to forget that, again, they're getting paid to go out there and stop the best team's player. And what do we do in fantasy? We draft the best team's players. So we hope that they score points. All right. And, again, if you look at that, the top scorers from last week, Mr. Saquon Barkley and Mr. Jonathan Taylor for the running back room, respectively, they had very, very down weeks this week, but they're volume monsters. You can't overreact or panic to that. You obviously set it and forget it type guys on your roster. And again, so don't get your panties tied up in a bunch, Case, okay? Because I know you like to overreact. Right?
Well, the Giants got a W, right? Hey, that's big for the Giants, even though
that's all that matters.
They queued on Saquon, bam. But it doesn't help your fantasy team now. Nobody cares about the Giants get a W if you don't freaking Saquon doesn't get 200 yards. You know what I'm saying? So, Boo. So what about that, brother? What about what happens when one of your best players, say for like us, like a Tom Brady as our quarterback, they don't have a favorable matchup? Do you sit the guys? Do you play that game, or do you do what you just said? You draft these guys high and you play them every week.
Case, that's the $1 million question in fantasy, man. I mean, for all the years that I've played, and we're talking 30 years, ladies and gentlemen. All right, it's always been you draft certain guys in certain rounds, high rounds, and you play them. Much like real sports, you're getting money, investing in certain guys to round picks, you play them. But, in fantasy, there is something to be said about trends and things that happen that we see a pattern with. And with Tom Brady going down to New Orleans, we know that he just does not play well against that team, especially in New Orleans. Hell, they've lost at home to New Orleans. So it's definitely one of those outliers that you see. You're like, this is interesting. Now, it depends who you have on your bench. You're not drafting Tom Brady in the top rounds. I've always felt like you could draft Brady later and get great results from him. It hasn't panned out these first 2 weeks, but I don't overreact to 2 weeks of football.
Well, I think his mind's been on Giselle and the kids. You know what I'm saying? His mind's somewhere else right now.
You got that going on, and you got the fact that his top receivers getting thrown out for fighting. He and Marshawn Lattimore, they should just have a sanctioned fight for WWE.
That was awesome, by the way. That was fun.
That was awesome, dude. Yeah. I thought it was incredible.
Did you hear, by the way, real quick, Evans was like, they were like, why'd you do that? And he goes, that's Tom Brady. Like, he's like, I'm just fighting for Tom Brady. Anyway, keep going, Boog. You're on a roll. Keep going.
Yeah. And you know what? So Tom Brady, you're without your top receiver. You didn't know he's going to get thrown out of the game. Secondly, you're down Chris Godwin. You're down Julio Jones, who was a late week scratch. You just look and you're like, wait a minute. He's got offensive line troubles, which I don't care because it's Tom, but I don't care because I know he's throwing it to guys that know how to get open and they understand how to get rid of the ball quickly. When that all falls apart like it did, it makes you have to consider it. And I'll be honest with you, Chinch, I did sit him in one league for a guy named Tua Tagovailoa. I think that's a pretty good move.
Whoa. What was his stat line? How many TDs? What was those?
Six.
The guy had 469 yards and 6 touchdowns. We'll get to him later because we got a segment in the show that's ours and only ours, and I'll talk about it later. Okay,
Yeah, okay.
Part of our segment coming up. We won't give away too much. But so I was smart in doing that, and in another league, I said I can't do that to Tom. I got to give him his respect and his due. Part of this is fantasy, guys. Part of it is, how you set up your team and how you're feeling that week. And sometimes you hit and sometimes you miss. And so you got to be able to admit when you missed, and you got to be able to admit when and praise yourself when you hit. So again, hit with Tua because I had him and I drafted him as a backup saying, you know what? God forbid Tom gets hurt. God forbid I need somebody. Lots of quarterbacks were going. He's a guy I had a feeling with. Now let's not get too crazy. Game script dictated him throwing the ball, but I did like what I saw last year in his progression. And obviously, when you go out and get new toys, you gotta think that that's going to help him. Tyreek Hill is a different animal. We talked about our very first show. What do I feel about him? I like to see a little bit more. Then the next preseason game, they come out and hit a 52-yarder where he's just throwing it up to him. I'm like, you really don't have to be that good a quarterback when you have Tyreek Hill. Yeah. You got to have a decent enough arm to throw it to a space where he can just go run and get it. And that's exactly what he's doing. And we saw that this week in big, big form.
Good work, Boo. What else you got?
Really, for a guy like, a guy like that, you also look at a team like Indianapolis Colts. Well, what's their kryptonite? The Jacksonville Jaguars of all teams were like, well, how does it happen? Last year, they need to get into the playoffs and beat the lowly Jacksonville Jaguars, and they couldn't. If you go back the last 4 or 5 games, it's the same thing with Tom in New Orleans. They just have a problem. Some teams just have other teams' numbers. There's no reason or explanation for it. We can't explain it, but we got to deal with it, and we got to see it. Would you ever bench Jonathan Taylor going down to Jacksonville? Absolutely not. I'm not saying to do that, but it has to be something where we start looking at these trends and say, well, maybe there is a way that we can start somebody else and, again, move away from everybody else in that game but Jonathan Taylor.
Right. By the way, are you out on Matt Ryan as a functional fantasy quarterback at this point?
I'm out on Matt Ryan because I've seen enough of him just to be like, I don't have him on any of my teams. I didn't want him, and these first 2 weeks are showing me why. Now, I don't think Matt Ryan can't get you serviceable fantasy weeks in a desperation move in a stream week versus a certain team at home, on that nice, but they want to run the ball first,
right?
And they want to run it against your will. So, I just didn't see it from Matt this year. I tried to avoid the situation.
Got it. All right, keep rolling. Sorry to interrupt.
Matty Ice.
Yeah. So that's really it on again, those trends, because just that. Those 2 games just popped out for me because we have a history there. And I wanted to bring that up in this segment to just say, hey, we should pay attention to certain. And again, in matchups where a guy is going up against, an elite cornerback, because at one point back in the day, like you just didn't start somebody against Deion Sanders. Right. You didn't start somebody against Champ Bailey. You didn't start somebody against Darrelle Revis. You may have, said, I drafted this guy high. But if you have somebody sitting on your bench that you feel like, man, this guy gives me a shot, that's all part of being a fantastic manager. And that can win you or lose you weeks. And it has this week for a lot of people.
Wonderful. All right.
Boo, one of the big things is, for really being a great GM in this, in the fantasy world is as we know, is the waiver wire. So who are some guys that you might be like, okay, we've seen a couple weeks now. Now we're sitting at the waiver wire starting to open up. Guys, we have stats. We know, who are some guys that you're looking at and
well, listen, what are your thoughts? Well, listen, Case, after you went AWOL on us last week, Chinch and I talked a lot about our waiver wire pickups. And again, we're going to talk about this every week because it is important. And we discuss this in nauseum that the work now begins, guys. We got our guys.
I think it's ad nauseum, Boo. I think
Chinch, do you remember somebody that we talked about late last week?
I'm still on the ad nauseum versus in nauseum, but wait.
In nauseum, ad nauseum. Okay, promulgate. Like, don't start with me, guys. I know what the hell I'm saying, right?
No, go.
I got that Richmond education coming from Jersey. I know what I'm saying, right?
So, who do we talk about? Go ahead.
We talked about Curtis Samuel, and I specifically said, listen, Curtis Samuel was brought over to Washington from Carolina with his old head coach, Ron Rivera. When you see situations like that, it gets you excited. And First week of the season after a terrible, injury-prone year last year, he's involved big time. Well, he comes back this week and he's got the same almost involvement and scores again. So, okay, guys, if he's still on your waiver wire, which you shouldn't, I picked him up in one of Casey and I's, big boy boxes, 80 leagues. So I'm happy that I was able to get him. Spent about $23 on him. That's my number early in the year. I said, you know what? 23 is the number. I don't pay attention to how much percentage of fab. I just go by, hey, this is the tendencies of guys in the league. And by the way, when you listen to all these prognosticators talk about this fab, guess what? We all know that that's the number out there. So you have to find your number when it comes to spending your money and get the guys you want. So that's what the Big Lambooski does. All right. And you got to separate yourself from the rest of this crowd.
Damn, right.
So on waiver wires, I want to talk about two rookies that we talked about from the beginning of the year, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Obviously, my man Garrett Wilson, he had the 8 targets. I told you he was a waiver wire pickup this past week in our last episode. All he did was go out there and catch 8 balls for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns, and one was the game winner. And I heard Joe Flacco on NFL Network talk about how the kid is just, it's not too big for him. The minute he came in, we're seeing a lot of these rookie wide receivers. Drake London, Chris Olave, you got guys coming in. Not the Steelers because they don't want to throw George Pickens the ball for some reason. I don't know why. We'll talk about that at a totally another time. But back to Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. If they're on your waiver wires, you got to scoop those guys up. So that's the wide receiver position I like this week. Running back position, a boy by the name of Raheem Mostert. We talked about Raheem Mostert, and I just said it earlier with certain guys coming over with their old coaches. Mike McDaniel was a San Francisco 49ers guy. He's bringing that whole philosophy to Miami. Well, Chase Edmonds is supposed to be the guy. I like Chase Edmonds. I think he's a really good running back, but there's something to be said about 5.6 yard per carry career average that Raheem Mostert has. So you bring that over, you give Chase's, but you know what? You add Raheem into the mix and you're realizing, wow, this guy, when healthy, can play the game of football. So, a lot of these teams are going to those 2 running back sets where it's like, you just don't know sometimes which guy is going to hit. And so that's why, it's making me think about my thoughts about going.
The Browns the last 2 weeks. First week was Hunt. Second week was Chubb. If you had one or the other, you had a shitty first week and a good second week, and vice versa. Right?
Listen, Chinch, I got to correct you, my friend. Chubb had 144 yards on the ground in the first week. He just didn't get in the end zone as much as Hunt did. So,
fine.
But 144 yards is nothing to shake a stick at, my friend.
Fair point.
I don't know about you, but that's difficult.
I'll take your 14-4. Okay, keep going. Sorry to interrupt. Jeez, genius at work.
So these committees are really tough sometimes. So, my philosophy of going wide receiver high right now this year is actually starting to fester in my head a little bit more than it ever has because
Fester? Did you say Fester? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn near killed her.
So, Mr. Fester. All right. So again, Raheem Mostert is definitely a guy that, you need to look at and scoop him up if he's out there. The other guy is Darrell Williams. And last week we talked about Eno Benjamin because, James Conner, you never know. He might be banged up. So here it comes out of nowhere. Darrell Williams comes in this year and steals the touchdown and looks pretty good running. Now, Eno still got some carries and James rolled his ankle. So we don't know what his situation is going to be. So it's a perfect, time to try to grab a waiver wire guy and maybe have a running back that you can plug and play. But I thought it was going to be Eno Benjamin. After last week, he definitely looked good replacing James as the number 2 back. All of a sudden, Connor gets hurt this week. And instead of being the number 2 back, they almost put Darrell in there like James Conner and still give his chances. So, again, what do coaches like to do? How are they using guys? Now we're getting more than just 60 minutes of football to try to figure out what and how these coaches like to use their players and systems and schemes and all that stuff. So as it plays out, you got to be able to move on the fly. You got to be able to, okay, listen, I thought was a guy, but if James Conner is hurt, maybe it is Darrell. And I got to go get him and put a waiver wire claim in on him because I need to strike gold. And if I can, that's how you stay in the mix and battle for a championship. So moving right along, we have wide receivers. And I had to watch the Steelers play because that's what I do. And we can have another whole podcast case on the Steelers.
I think it's the offensive coordinator, the Deacon and Duncan and all that stuff.
It's brutal. And it's like these other wide receivers are out there, these young guys showing you they can do it. George Pickens was known as one of the most incredible ones out of all of them, but yet we don't throw him the football at all. We don't get him involved. So that's another story. But Nelson Aguilar is like he is the number one guy that's overlooked in this game. And, although they have quite a few receivers over there, Bourne and Myers, I think Nelson Aguilar is a better deep threat than given credit for. And he mossed one of our cornerbacks on his way to a touchdown right before the half, but he had over 100 yards, 6 receptions. They had to throw the ball to somebody in New England, and I know their receivers aren't sexy, but Aguilar is definitely a guy I think you can plug and play, and he's not going to hurt your fantasy football team. So he's somebody you definitely need to consider. The other guy is Noah Brown. I know Michael Gallup is coming back for the Dallas Cowboys, but when Cooper Rush was thrown into the mix, right now, you got to look at the eye test and say, okay, Cooper Rush is looking for Noah Brown. Noah Brown looked pretty good, caught a nice touchdown, just went out and sucked it in with his hands. He's getting the reps and the targets now from Cooper. So he's a guy that you definitely need to consider picking up on the waiver wire. Moving from wide receivers to tight ends, and I never thought I'd say this thing, but Evan Ingram, new life over in Jacksonville. Jacksonville needs to throw to somebody. They got Christian Kirk. They got Marvin Jones. They got a couple new toys, Zay Jones. But Evan Ingram had led the team in targets this past week. And anytime you lead a team in targets, I'm paying attention because target share and volume is what we love. We love those target and volume monsters. So, again, tight end, hey, I'm striking out on my tight end so far this year. We're going to talk about our, in a segment later about some duds. I have one for you. But right now, Evan Ingram for a not so deep tight end position is a guy that I would look at and try to get, And obviously at quarterback, I'm going to talk about this guy a little bit. But like if Tua is still out there on some waiver wires, I think it's time to pick him up again. Setting your expectations correct. Like the guy, game script and everything happened last week for them to throw it. I don't picture him throwing the ball anywhere near as many times as he did. But hey, if they're behind, he's going to, and he can.
People are going to overpay for him though right now, right? After a week like that, how's that work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what's going to happen. But so again, you set your price at what you feel is comfortable because somebody's probably going to go out there and overspend. You don't want to be that guy, especially if, again, McDaniels, just look at the San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback in the NFL. He got his team to a Super Bowl, AFC Championship game. He's very overlooked, but he's not a fantasy relevant guy because they want to run the ball first. That's what their philosophy is, and it's always going to be. It's nice to know you have those nice, fancy cheetahs out there and guys that can really do work because they're incredible right now. And if they want to throw the ball more, I think last week proved that they can. And it could be successful.
Good point. Keep going. What else you got?
No, that's it for the waiver wire this week. Again, there might be some other guys out there, but for me, those are the guys that I circled and I wanted to talk about on the show.
Okay, I love that. That's great. Go ahead, Case. What do you got?
No, I was going to say, is this where we get into the forget about it segment, or we got some?
You better believe it, baby.
By the way, Case, I got a text the other night. Were you on it about? Apparently, there might be some copyright infringement here. Apparently, I don't know, somebody.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, what do we got, Boo? What's happening here? What's happening? And then just get ready.
I was listening to Game Day. I was going through all my shows in the morning. Put on Fantasy Football Now, just get a little bit of what they're talking about, so I can, make sure I'm either in line or not in line with them. Because we have to make our own predictions around here. So I'm watching Game Day, and I ran into my bedroom to grab something. I got mayhem going on. My daughter's running all around. I'm trying to pay attention to the show. She wants to watch a YouTube channel. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me! It's Sunday morning. I don't even want to hear this again for the rest of the year.
She's like, she wants to, dude. It's like my daughter. They're watching Fortnite. People play Fortnite. I'm like, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
It's incredible, Case. That's exactly what she wants to do. Want to watch somebody else playing it.
Yeah, I said we got to watch. We're getting ready to watch football. Pregame football shows. Like, hey, we want to watch Mr. Beast.
Oh, Lord have mercy! It's so true. And as I'm juggling that, I'm kind of going inside and coming back to the room, and I hear "Forget about it" up on the screen, and I'm like, "What in the world is going on right now? That's mine. You can't take that. That's ours. That's the mayor's office, the Big Lambooski, the Chinch Man. That's our segment." But I think it was pretty much they were talking about, like, they were trying to segue into talking about each region and giving something from like the East Coast because there was a game.
Screw them. I don't care. I don't care. That's a bad excuse by them. I don't care.
Give a shit, do you?
No.
Dude, you're from Hackensack, New Jersey. You're the original. Forget about it.
I want to hear
about it
right now. Let's go. It's forget about it time. Go, Boo.
All right. Now, for those of you who are new to the show, and you shouldn't be, shame on you. We got a little segment called Forget About It. And this could mean a couple different things. And if you're listening to the show last week, if you have a guy on your fantasy team that has not really done well, maybe laid a dud, you might want to forget about it. All right. And on the flip side, you got a stud that had an unbelievable game. You got to forget about it. Okay. So this week, we started off last week with a couple of, forget about it. So we're going to just continue that because I like to get excited later. I'm going to get this out of the way. I talked about a guy, a tight end, earlier this year. His name is Cole Kmet, all right, for the Chicago Bears. I told you can throw away week 1. It was a monsoon mud pool. Nothing about that game you can get in. So we gave them the benefit of the doubt. And now they did go into San Francisco no, they played San Francisco, but they played Green Bay. They went into Green Bay on a Sunday night. You knew Rodgers coming off that game. He just answers, relax. But I expected a little bit more out of the Chicago Bears. They attempted 7 throws, which leads me to forget about it for the Chicago Bears in general, okay? That whole team. And Cole Kmet got 1 target for 0 catches. That's a donut. That's a bagel, okay? In fantasy, that'll get you released in a hurry, okay? Out on the street looking for a job. You know what I'm saying, brother? You can go to his teammate on that team who we heard nothing but great things about, Mr. Darnell Mooney, who was, actually pretty productive last year. 77 catches, got the speed to go over the top, all camp long route running. This guy is undeable. Guys, I'm going to say this to you, 1 catch for -4 yards on a dry evening in Green Bay in Wisconsin, guys. Forget about it, okay? And I don't even know what to do after you forget about it. You just got to kind of move on somehow and hope that it happens. But you're Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet, the Chicago Bears in general, you're on high alert right now. We're going to forget about you for this week. The last quiet, forget about it here is my man Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju, after a nice week 1, we're playing the Chargers. Let's not go back to Thursday. Let's forget Thursday night was a game. We were all excited. Supposed to be a high-scoring game. You figured, why not, man? I'm riding Juju. High-scoring game. My man Patrick. Juju, you had 3 catches for 10 yards. Forget about it. He'll come back. He'll be better. We got to move on. Now, to our other team, opposite of the Chicago Bears, the Miami Dolphins. Forget about it.
Oh, right. I see what's going on. I see
unbelievable. First of all, let's talk about the game before we talk about a few players, and I'm excited. When you're up 35-14 on the when the Baltimore Ravens are up 35-14 on you, it's game over, man. That team is as good as it gets, as well coached as you can be. I know because they play in our division, the AFC North, for years, and I know Harbaugh, and I know about the defensive philosophy of that team, and I know how hard it is to come back on that team. They came back from 35-14 in the 4th quarter. Tunga Tagovailoa, 469 yards, 6 touchdowns, which obviously, who's he throwing to? Tyreek Hill, the cheetah. 11 receptions, 190 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jalen Waddle, he had like 11, and I played him in every league this year. He was on everybody's other team, so it was just incredible. Lamar Jackson and Waddle and Hill were like on the same team. I played them. I go, are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. I lost before the game even started. So forget about it, Miami. Keep on doing what you're doing. I couldn't be happier because they beat the Ravens, which is tough. But that team and that game and the way they threw the ball and that comeback was forget about it. The other guy I'll talk about, Stephon Diggs. I mean, you're going into Monday night's game. You're down Gabriel Davis, which, by the way, killed us, Case, because the guy had an ankle injury and he got it during the week. and wound up not playing. So it just
Let's go. That's terrible.
Yeah, it's like toughen up. Let's go. Tape it up and get out there. So you figure, okay, this guy's not playing. All right, let's try and stop their best receiver now. Let's try and make Josh Allen really do something else. Well, Tennessee, Mike Vrabel, you come from that Belichick school of like stopping the other guy's best player. Guys, 12 catches, 148 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Forget about it. That is incredible against a Mike Vrabel-led Tennessee Titans team. The Buffalo Bills, man, they're scary right now. I know it's 2 games, but, man, they're scary. You can't stop them. You couldn't stop the one receiver left that they had. No. Something's off there, and it might be they're just that good and that much.
I think their head coach is so sick about that loss last year in the playoffs to the Chiefs that he went home and started game planning the next morning about how he was going to dominate in 2022 and get that World Series title.
How about this? Speaking of coaches, real quick, now that I'm locked in on football more than I have been in a while, how about starting you start the season playing Thursday night football, which is weird, and then you don't play until the next Monday. Think about how good of coaching you have to have and how many good leaders you have to have in that locker room. And just what Case said, you played on baseball teams where you had a good collective group that would police themselves. Couldn't have been easy to play Thursday, sit around for a week and a half, and then play on Monday night. Those guys, I'm telling you, I picked them to win the Super Bowl tonight.
A lot of people did pick them to win the Super Bowl, and we all know to proceed with caution in situations like that.
Forget about it.
But I can understand why they said it, and they're doing nothing. You guys are something else. They're doing nothing to show that they aren't worthy of that.
Yeah.
And let me explain this to you. You go out, forget. Case, you said coach. Man, if I'm a player and Josh Allen, who's an elite talent, like, he played one of the best football games you could possibly play from the quarterback position. There was 12 seconds of the most ridiculous football that could happen that stopped them from being able to play Cincinnati and a shot to go to the Super Bowl, which I give them a good chance of winning. Now, you take that back as a team, forget the coach. The coach shouldn't have to fire up the team when you have a sting like that and a loss. So that whole organization and team is just dialed in. You go out to LA, you smack up the returning champions and let them know, hey, if it was us in that game, you guys might not have been on the winning side of this. And then you have all that time to come back home, thrown off schedule, everything's off. You play on Monday night in front of your home opener in your hometown, and you lay the smack on a Tennessee team that is usually in games. They don't get smacked, those Vrabel games.
And by the way, you went out and got Von Miller in the offseason to basically say we're going to have a guy that's going to dominate on the other side of the ball, just like Josh Allen dominates on offense.
Yeah, he's like LT style right now.
You said it. You said it. They got levels, man. They got levels on that team. And like I said, to go out there and have your number 1 receiver with the number 2 down dominate like that, when you know that he's the guy, something's in the air in Buffalo that you just can't stop. And if Vrabel and his team couldn't figure it out, like, I feel sorry from a lot of other teams this year.
Yeah, because Vrabel is one of the best coaches.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, I got to make an executive decision here because first of all, I want to give props to Case. I want to give props to Boost. I want to give props to myself. This is like, if you guys ever saw The Perfect Storm where they're trying to go up that like
the wave,
and then all of a sudden Wahlberg's flying out and Clooney's flying out. That's what it took to get this thing done today. If you're looking at Boo again, please go to our YouTube page. Boo looks like a 1979 guest on a game show with the circle feet. Oh my God! And then there's this.
Dude.
Oh, wait, we got to do this before we go.
Get a load of this. This is what I got to deal with. That pops up.
Dude, what is that, Boo?
Oh, my
Seriously,
God.
what is that?
Dude, that's a mannequin head that my wife uses to do her hair extensions.
Case, wait, do you see?
I'm telling you guys this right now. I'm telling you this right now, guys. I'm going to get it out of here again. I'm going to tell you right now, guys.
There's a hairdryer in his living room, Case, too. There's a hairdryer in his living room.
There, it's everything. I'm in the salon,
dummy
guys.
head. Oh, my God.
So, Boo, tell us a story about that. Yeah.
Bro, let me tell you something about that face and that head, okay? You talk about being, like, piss your pants, okay? I turn the corner sometimes. My wife has this thing. She's got like a tripod. She sets the hair up. She sets the mannequin head up, and she's working on the hair. And like, I'll be like at night, it's like dark. I'll turn a corner and fucking, excuse me, that thing is staring right at me. I don't even know what the shit my pants like at least 3 times, bro. That's the scariest thing you'll ever run into in your life.
Oh my god, dude!
We need to just put a still case. You just need to tweet out a still of Lambooski holding that. You're gonna get.
God,
then you're gonna get. What do they call it when the FBI just shows up at your house and they're just gonna show up at Boo's house?
Listen,
that's terrifying.
It's
American Horror
crazy.
Story. All right.
Seriously.
Well, that being said,
like
go ahead, Case. What were you gonna say?
I was saying it's like if you guys don't watch wrestling, remember Al Snow used to carry around that mannequin head and just call it head. Just call it head. It's incredible.
Stop.
It's incredible.
Stop. That's
Incredible.
great.
Yeah, Al Snow. So you're the new Al Snow,
Yes.
Boo.
Well,
hey, brother, that was Chinch. Go ahead. You want to finish?
No, I was just going to say
that.
we got to get going. We got the 900 things going on, and we always leave meat on a bone with Boo, but Boo just spoke literally by himself for 40 minutes, and it was all fucking great. And I know we make fun of you, Boo, because it's so much fun, and you're so funny about it, but you know your shit, man, and this is awesome, and I hope everybody's listening. This is so great.
Lambooski brought it again for everybody out there. Fantasy football, let's go. We're dominating. Wait till we get some more games this week coming up, but Boo, you delivered the goods. Chinch, you delivered the goods. Everyone out there, keep listening, downloading, subscribing.
And keep your eye out for the Clemente Museum piece that I'm about to go run and do. That's why we were cutting this short a little bit.
Keep your eye out for the Clemente Museum piece coming out tomorrow. Let's go. Love you, boys. Love everybody out there. Keep listening. Let's get it.